Right. I know we got no viewers yet. I better wait, actually, till we get a few. Or maybe not. Just crack on with it. So, come on, people. Come on, people. Where are you? If not, I can't give you too long. Obviously, people are going to watch this back and go, where is? We got 2 people. That's a good enough start. I'm not going to go live with Mailer until we get at least 5 people. 3. Come on. They're all slow. They're all on the drink. Sod it. Let's not wait. I can't be bothered. Just going to get to it. Right, ladies and gentlemen watching, let's get rid of that. We're live. Welcome to Dirt Hub, Dirty Talk, episode 3. And it's with great pleasure to bring on this man who knows an awful lot about racing motorbikes and shouting about them and screaming. Let's get him on. Paul Malin, there he is. Yay!
There it goes and sinks a beer.
Yes. Yeah, do you want to commentate on that? Let's just do it. I'll tell you what, I'll do the slow motion. I'll do the slow motion replay.
Oh, Jeff sinks a beer. It goes down his throat. He will live to fight another day.
There you go.
I'm not scared.
From what I can make out, we've been chatting about 5 minutes before we came on air, Paul. It's happy hour in the Mailer Bar.
Hey, it's always happy hour in the Mailer Bar here in Belgium. We just we knock off at 5 o'clock and then we just get, we get into it.
Lockdown has been treating you well. You need to get back on the mic to get out of this, this.
Dude, I cannot wait, honestly. You, me, and Dupree, we are all ready to, go racing again. And as I understand it, there will be an announcement tomorrow some point, whether it's in the morning, the afternoon, or whatever. If that's the case, then hopefully from what I can gather, based on the information that we've had over the last few weeks, the calendar coming out tomorrow will be the calendar for the rest of the year. So let's just fingers crossed and hope that we go racing and all the rest of it. So, you and me, mate, we're just...
So this is always a good thing, because people think when you do what you do in the commentary booth and whatever, and you're so obviously engrossed with in front what used to be called Ustream, but everybody thinks that you got your finger on the pulse. It's still amazing, isn't it, when you get involved that for a lot of time don't necessarily know what's going on. You're the voice of it. You're the commentator. You're not sat there having meetings discussing the future of the sport or whatever like that. So at the minute, you're still in the dark of regards of what's going to happen. You've heard rumours about the press release coming out tomorrow, but you don't know for sure yet, do you?
No, and the thing is, I'm sort of my wife and I, Nikki, we live in Belgium. We're renting a place in Belgium and have done for the last 18 months or so. And being where we are, we're literally 5 minutes from, Rebel KTM Factory Workshop. We're 10 minutes from the Monster Energy Yamaha MXGP team workshop. Johan Boonen, DT1 Air Filters is literally 4 miles down the canal, which is, we back up onto a canal here, so 6K away. Ben Watson lives less than a mile away from where we are. We see him on a regular basis. And, the news around Belgium today, and it's hit the Belgian newspapers today, is that there will be 3 Belgian GPs towards the end of the year. Yeah, Lommel, but end of September, October time, beginning of October or thereabouts. So how they do that, I don't know, whether it's 3 weekends or a Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, whatever. But I've also heard today that maybe we start mid-August.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard that there might be 2 or 3 in Italy as well. So based on that information and, like I say, I'm not at management level within In-Front Moto Racing. I'm not privy to any of the conversations, any of the internal emails or anything like that. This is just the last 24, 48 hours or so that I'm hearing a calendar will be released maybe tomorrow, and that, maybe 3 in Belgium, maybe 2 or 3 in Latvia, maybe 2 or 3 in Italy, and blah, blah, blah. But where those venues are, Belgium obviously looks like it is probably going to be Lommel, but Latvia, you can only assume that it would probably be Kickham's. But after that, Italy, do they have 1, 2, 3 venues up their sleeves? Do we go to Finland? Do we go to Sweden? The rest of that, I don't know until tomorrow, sort of 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, whatever, whenever they release the calendar. So, and I'm itching to find out, to be fair.
Yeah, that's it's pretty unusual for Belgium press to say that there's going to be 3 events at Lommel before the actual organisation, you know, in front Moto have even announced it.
Yeah.
I guess that's just hearsays or you know, but normally there's a curfew on stuff like that, isn't there? And they're sort of told to wait, but
yeah,
sounds like it's going to happen.
Normally, but I think the difference is, you know, Belgian press is just, you know, lockdown press in Belgium. You know, it's if the organisers have decided, yeah, this is probably what we're going to do, you know, and it's obviously made the papers. I mean, you can probably go on Instagram now and probably find a thread to that particular article. But it looks like, yeah, we've got at least 2, maybe 3 in Belgium, end of September, October time. But like I say, until I see the calendar, I'm not privy to it. I've not had any conversations with anybody at IMR in front motor racing. So I will wait eagerly, like you, to see what happens tomorrow. Or tomorrow, where are we now? Thursday, Friday, yeah. Probably
Thursday,
tomorrow.
yeah.
They always said the end of the month they would release the calendar. But obviously the end of the month was a couple of days ago. So midweek is kind of a strange time to release a new calendar, but end of the week. So I'm expecting tomorrow.
I suppose they had to do that in the end because at one point it was getting ridiculous. They were almost updating the calendar on a weekly basis. And in the end, I was watching it going, well, just why don't you know, it was changing so much.
Yeah, but this is also, you know, credit to, you know, IMR. The situation is, I think, when we were in Matterley, I think the coronavirus thing was breaking. When we got to Valkenswaard, they made an announcement that Trentino would be pushed back. At that point, we were looking at 2 weeks later going to Argentina for round 3. And then the coronavirus COVID-19 thing hit in a big way to the point where, yeah, IMR had to force a couple more GPs back and back and back to the point where we all of a sudden realized that we're in this situation. And they got to a point where they went, you know what? We've just released a new calendar. Actually, let's just wait this thing out. Let's see where we're at. And actually, the next calendar that we produce will be the one that sees us through to the end of the season, whether it's 5 races, 10 races, 15 races, whatever. That's the point that they've got to. And I'm expecting the calendar that comes out tomorrow will be quite heavily congested in terms of maybe 4 or 5 or 6 together. And then, you know, maybe a break. And whether we go and do flyways, I have no idea. I think, you know, if we can finish in Argentina as per one of the reshuffles, like in the middle of November, that would be nice because it is a beautiful part of the world. And you know what?
Yeah.
There, book your tickets, get on a plane and get over there because, you know, Patagonia, fantastic part.
Got to get there. I haven't been there yet. Do you know what? Before we get on
to buy your ticket for you.
Say what? Did I hear that right? You've said it now.
No,
it's gone out live.
The line broke, and you thought.
I heard you say you'd buy my ticket for me, Paul. I thought
you never heard that. I said I still need to buy my ticket for me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll watch the recording back. Before we get into the thick of that, I just want to say I really like watching. You know, obviously viewers are starting to come in now. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. I hope you're thinking a few or you're relaxed like me and Paul are. But obviously the idea of Dirty Talk is to get you guys involved. So if you've got a question for me or Paul, all you do is type it in on YouTube where you're watching or our Dirt Hub Facebook page. And we get to see it. I get to see it. All the comments here. So while you were talking about Argentina, very interestingly, a guy called MX Justin JMB, obviously people watching live.
He's the most famous Argentinian out there.
Right, here we go. He is watching. He's loving life. He says, he said, while racing 91 USGP, many US mags said he had an offer to join US Kawasaki Team Green alongside Jeff Ward. So I'm going to get these personal ones out of the way before we talk about, obviously, current affairs. So let's just get these out of the way. Is that true? Did you get an offer to ride in America?
I'd had a decent 1990 first season when I was 18 on a stock Dinosaur KX500, and then I got a factory SR500 for 91, which when I heard that news, I was kind of dreading it because I'd ridden the bike from David the year before, and very rigid, and but they'd done their homework. Kawasaki and the new SR for 91 was fantastic. Turn, power, everything was fantastic. And then I'd had, if we didn't have the engine problems that we had in the middle of the season and all the political stuff that went on mid-season, then
see, on this show, you can say bullshit. You can't say that on an MXGP live commentary or your shows. I just said it. That might be the second Estrella kicking in. But anyway, yeah, carry on, because I know you wanted to swear then and you were being so professional, you didn't. Good on you.
I was.
Leave the swearing to me.
I almost said crap.
So you did have a chance then. Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Roy Turner, who was Kawasaki Racing USA, he'd mentioned stuff to Alec Wright, my old boss, and Alec kind of related to me and sort of said, they obviously want you to do the outdoors at some point, or do some outdoors, because I think the calendars and the way schedules were back then in 91 were a lot different. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, cool. When do we go? And he was like, yeah, well, the problem is, and whether this is true or not, Alec just sort of said, yeah, the ACU won't release you from your contract to do the next 3 or 4
Uncle Alec
championship, because at the beginning of the year you sign a contract, when you take out your license, you're going to do all 8 rounds. And obviously then I was helping bring in people, I was not going to blow my own trumpet. You can maybe blow it for me, but maybe young and exciting to watch at the time, especially on a 500, 19 years old. But I never got the opportunity, and then, 92, it kind of went a little bit tits up because I got injured pre-season, got injured early on in the season, got injured mid-season, got injured towards the end of the season, and then in the end, that relationship kind of fell foul, and I ended up signing a deal with Yamaha for the next 7 years.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to use that soundbite about blowing your trumpet. I've got to be careful how I promote that, but yes,
please do. Because, it's a child-friendly show. And,
while we're on the subject as well, just like I said, we had a few personal questions come in to ask you before we move on to really getting into the nitty and gritty of MXGP and EMX, which I want to do this evening with you, and just basically talk about the whole structure and all that. Adam Gold, you don't know anyway, but you can make it up. Make it like commentary. Make it up as you go along, because let's be honest, we know we do that.
Well, you know that. You've been in the booth.
I do. Adam Gold is.
What's it like for you when you've been in the booth with me, and we're about to go live, and we're getting the countdown, and you're sat here next to me, and it's like we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, opening jingle, blah blah blah. I do the opening, I bring you in, and all of a sudden you get some voice going, commercial break in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, now go live to Lisa in the pre-grid interview, and
I will say now. This is the part earlier on. You don't want to blow your own trumpet. Well, I'm going to do that for you now, because I've got to say, having sat in that booth and done that with you, and also Roger on Eurosport one time, whatever, it is, and Jack, yeah, people have no idea. When you've got this little French guy permanently talking in your ear all the time, and then you're trying to watch the racing, listen to what you're saying, get your facts right or whatever. People have no idea how hard it is genuinely to your brain. I don't know about you, but like when you actually come out of it that evening after a couple of hours, and you're on this almost sort of major come down, your brain's just frazzled. At the end of commentating on a weekend, I don't want to talk to anybody. I get home and family ask, how was it? And you just want to, you're like, shut up. I'm not talking to you. I've been talking all head still going. So
from my side, at the moment we are MXGPTV.com, the live subscription. You guys can watch it on Eurosport with different commentary, whatever else. But from our side, we used to have Motors TV, Motorsport TV, but we also had, and we still have, CBS Sports Network in the US live. Yeah. So when we had that situation with Motors and CBS Sports, and of course, our live online network, MXGPTV.com. TV.com, we have no TV commercials, no adverts, no breaks. It's just the whole stream right from the beginning. So like a 1 hour program, MX2 race 1. 1 minute break, straight into MXGP race 1. Then we have a bit of a break, and then we do the last 2 races. But of course, we have everything Saturday. But with the live races, particularly the second race when we're live in America, when we were also live with Motorsport TV, there would be different commercial break times for the 2 networks. And so you have to satisfy that. So me as lead commentary, I'm doing hello, welcome, and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. And first and foremost, we're doing our online platform, MXGP TV. Then motors pop up in the ear and go, give me a cue point in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, a cue point is when, they want to create a point at which they can start the program at any point or drop into the program at any time. So they might not necessarily start at the opening jingle or at the hello, welcome.
Yeah.
Those cue points, it'll be, here we are at, 15-second board is up. Or just before the team report, or just before the pre-grids, or just after the pre-grids, when the riders are going to the line. So you get through that. Then during the race, Motors TV decide, guess what? We're going on a commercial break in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At that point, I've probably got my producer in my ear saying, we've got a replay of the pass or the crash from this guy and that guy. And you're queuing up for one, to watch that, but you're also queuing up to go on a commercial break, which you can't say you're going on a commercial break because we're live on MXGP TV where there are no commercial breaks. And then just as you're coming back from a commercial break from one, you might be going on a commercial break with America. So there's a lot of pauses and a lot of stops and starts. And, me talking, introducing you, having a conversation with our online, on-site director, Paris and America, you're having 5 different conversations throughout, the broadcast. And like you say, I remember Rob Andrews coming in I think it was the Motocross of Nations 2009 in Franciacorta. He came in for one race and he was like, yeah, I'll come in with you one race. And at the end of that race, he went, why would you want to do that, John? He said, you have 5 brains to get through that conversation, that whole...
I know why. Because you love it.
Oh, dude, I do love it.
That's why, yeah. And it shows. And and we, obviously, that's what it's all about, getting, high energy levels into it. Yeah. And if you're into, I got to admit, I love doing it too. It is a buzz.
I know. The amount of times I hear you through my headset during the live at Matterley. Yeah, I did exactly, and that's quite. This is crazy to say though, and people are going, "You're talking shit here, Parrot. You are," but I'm still not comfortable, and they would generally think I'm talking after bullshit here. I'm still not comfortable when I hear my own voice back. It's still a bizarre thing. It is. I don't care what anybody says, but anyway, I try to ignore that. So you got to listen to me now. And me and Mailer, because now we're going to get into the thick of it. Right, people watching, this is it. We're going to start talking serious stuff. Right, you know what? 1 second. We've got a local thing down here. We're doubling up on speakers, so I'm just going to turn the speaker off. 1 second.
Right. Okay, yeah, you carry on. That's the beauty of live. You do whatever you need to do, Mailer. Right.
No, I think what it is, the missus is watching upstairs, and she's got the Bose connected downstairs.
See, you can't escape her. She's keeping an eye on you even when she's not there. We'll get her on later on. She can talk about all things Yamaha.
It's your anniversary today, so
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Since we kind of, started.
That's why you're a bit squishy, mate. I didn't know that. If I'd have known that, I would have said, "Don't bother coming on." But so you
I didn't
can.
know that till, actually, no. It's around this weekend, so like 2nd, 3rd, 4th of when we were in Sweden, and whatever, blah blah from 6 years ago when we started kind of eyeing each other up and all the rest of it. So yeah.
So no wonder it's like I said, happy hour, happy evening in the Mailer household. She's commented. She's upstairs commented. She's commented on it. She's basically come in. Nikki's upstairs saying that was what it is. Sorry, I'm in my knickers, so I can't come down. This show's deteriorating.
Guess what? Jacuzzi's out there, so
it's either deteriorating or improving quickly. Right.
The jacuzzi's out there, so we'll be there later.
Right, let's get into it. I want to get your opinion, and I know. Listen, this is a tough one because I know you work for obviously in Front Moto, and you know all the riders. So I'm not going to getting you to single out too much stuff there, regards of the riders and all that kind of stuff. But we're going back to what you said about the GPs and how they're going to run it this year. In your personal opinion, what do you reckon is a minimum requirement for it to be called a championship? How many rounds do you like? If they only run 3 rounds, would that really be a world?
3 rounds? I think you're having a laugh. When I raced GPs, it was literally up until I stopped in the 99, 12 rounds. I think if we can get at least 12 rounds, that's respectable, because that's what it was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? If we can get any more than that, I think perfect. And, 20, I think if you look at how the calendar has shifted from Valkenswaard round 2, 4 months ago, to sort of how it, 1 month and 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. If we lose, or if we're a lot, I looked at the calendar and thought, if we lose July and we start in August, we've got so many races we need to get in to complete the championship. We've only got like maybe 4 weekends before Christmas. If we lose August and we start in September, we're pretty much racing every weekend till Christmas. And if you want to do a full championship and do all the flyaways, mathematics will, and everything else will tell you that is not possible, because you need time for bikes to do the flyaways, freight and everything else, and blah, blah, blah. You can't do 18 races straight, including flyaways. So common sense has to prevail. Here we are now, potentially with a new calendar tomorrow. First weekend, second. Where is Latvia at the moment? On our 8th, 9th was the original, Latvia. So even if we start there or the week after, middle of August, you've still got to allow for, if there are flyway races, certain breaks here and there. You've also got to allow for how many weekends can riders, teams, logistics, personnel, everybody involved with the World Championship go in one continuous streak. 3 weekends when we've got the full schedule. For me, I arrive at a GP on Thursday and I leave on Monday. That's 5 days. A lot of riders in their campers arrive on a Thursday. They move, they cruise on in. Friday, it's an easy day for them. They do their track walk, whatever. Saturday, Sunday, they leave Sunday night, get home middle of the night, whatever. Depending where they're driven from, Italy, Germany, wherever the next race is. A lot of guys fly, obviously. But, to have our logistics, to give you an example, Matterley Basin, anybody who went to the first Grand Prix this year, anybody who went to Valkenswaard, anybody who goes to Trentino, when you arrive at a GP and you arrive on Friday, everything is in place. Even you, Jeff. You turn up and you go, man, this place looks awesome.
Yeah.
Skybox is in, pit lane is in, media center is in, all the advertising bridges are in, all the advertising around the track is in place. Teams are in the paddock, restaurants are in, hospitalities are in, Monster Energy rig is in position. And you just go, wow, yeah, I've never been to a race like this before. But all of that takes time and personnel to build it. Now, let's say you leave Matterley. We come off air at 5 o'clock in England because of the time difference. We were in winter time. Normally it's 6 o'clock local time. Everybody leaves. There's a next race in Italy, let's say, a week later. Everybody from in-front motor racing, as soon as the last rider is over the line on Sunday, MXGP race 2, our track crews, our logistics people, they are out on track, pulling in all the advertising hoarding, taking down the bridges, stripping pit lanes, stripping the skybox of all the, the canvas material. So you've got like a skeleton scaffold.
Yeah.
They go back Monday morning, first thing early. They strip the rest of the track. Everything's got to be loaded into, the rigs. And then they will leave, go to the next race. By the time I arrive on Thursday, a week later, everything is almost in position. By the time you arrive on Friday as a media guy, everything is finished. It's a massive program, So when we look at, a new calendar coming out, and David Longo, the CEO of In-Front Motor Racing, mentioned in the last issue of MXGP magazine, which if you go to mxgp.com and search, you will find MXGP magazine in there. On all the back issues, he has his editorial where he said, Going forward, obviously, In Front Motor Racing working closely with the FIM and all the organisers and clubs and everybody associated. Yeah. They were looking at running the future of MXGP this year, running a schedule where Saturday would be only European, one-day format, and Sunday only MX2, MXGP. How that works in terms of a timetable, do they have a free practice and a separate time practice and then, a qualifying race and then 2 races? Or is it just free practice, time practice, MX2, MXGP, 4 races? We've got to find a way to get through this pandemic in a good way that satisfies everybody. So if a one-day format for everybody, EMX, 125, 250, WMX, European Open on a Saturday, great. And then Sunday. But I think your paddock, the paddock will determine. And I think if you've got, Lommel will have a lot of space in and around. So they can create an MX2, MXGP paddock. They can create a European EMX paddock. Latvia also have space. And I'm only basing this on what I've heard,
Well, like you said, we're going to find out. We're going to find out tomorrow, aren't we? I mean, that's the thing. It's okay.
Your paddock space. I mean, I heard even in the week, maybe like last weekend, that do you have, if you've only got EMX 125, 250 on Saturday, do they arrive on Friday? And then as soon as they're done on Saturday, do the MX2, MXGP riders arrive on Saturday, set up their shop, and then do everything Sunday and then leave? Do we have, if there are 2 or 3 races at the same venue, as maybe might be the case with Lommel, do we do a Sunday race, a Wednesday race, and a Sunday race? What I'm sure, in the interest of the FIM Motocross World Championship, MXGP, in the safety of the riders, the teams, the fans, the personnel, the medics, everybody that is associated with that, I'm sure all of the necessary precautions will be put in place in terms of sanitizers, in terms of washing facilities, in terms of masks, whatever it needs. I'm sure they will adopt in the correct way that they have to. So, but like I say, until we see the calendar tomorrow, and until we see how those calendars, because again, when you go to mxgp.com and you see the calendar on the right side of the homepage, if you click that event, let's say Latvia, it will give you a drop-down window of who is on the support bill, whether it's 125, 250 European, whether it's women, whether it's open, or whatever else, So that will give you an idea of the timetable and who's going to be on Saturday, who's going to be on Sunday. So, but until we see that calendar, it's difficult to know. But I'm sure they would have, put all the necessary and probably more, requirements in place.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you said 12 GPs, because obviously that's what it used to be and whatever, We've got some good questions coming in. Chris Stevens, I've got your question here. We'll get to that question in a minute, not right now, because I want to ask Paul about, 12 GPs is good. Obviously, the GPs have been extended. They've been extended. What are we up to now? 19 GPs?
20 this year. We've already had 2. So I'm expecting a calendar tomorrow to be at least another 10. If we can get more than that, if we can get 12 to 15, great. Yeah,
12, 15 would be good. But then, if you're taking it to 20, this is one thing, not that you personally, but obviously In Front are. What's your opinion on now fitting in domestic championships around that? Because it's becoming increasingly difficult. For example, let's say British riders that I know now we've got the tunnel and all that, so they can just whiz over. And some of them are based in Belgium anyway. But then to fit in 20 GPs and then say 8 British Championship rounds, that's a lot of racing. So is it time maybe that the British Championship, I know this is getting off GPs a little bit, sort of go, well, we can't cater for those guys anymore. We'll have to just clash some weekends with GPs to fit it all in.
No, I think, okay, when I raced and it was 12, we used to have 14 British Championships. So we had 6 125, 250, and then 8 open class, which also had a support element to it, your top 35. So you had 40 riders in your main open class championship, 500cc British Championship. At the very first round of the season of 8 in the 500 open class championship, the winner of the support class had the option to go up into the British Championship if he won the first round. Otherwise, because it was an 8-round series, after the first 4 rounds, it was almost like a football relegation system.
Yeah.
Which is great. At the end of the season, your bottom 3 go down and the top 3 come up from the other divisions. At the halfway point in the British Championship, you would have a situation where the top 5 from the support class had the automatic right and were automatically promoted to what they called the top 35, really. The bottom 5 were dropped down to the support class championship. And then, of course, you had the 125, 250 championship, another 6 rounds. When you had 12 rounds, and another 14 rounds, maybe you're no different to what you are now. However, back then, when I raced 125, 250, 500, whatever, and GPs, the situation was there were probably 10 or 15 riders per class in 125, 250, 500 that would compete in GPs from England alone.
Yeah, exactly. We had the grading list then, didn't we? You had to be good enough to get on the grading list to go. So yeah.
And so now what we have is, when I look at the British Championship now, all they seem to do is focus on domestic. So I don't think it's a problem that we have 20 GPs when you're riding in England, because in England, I watched the first 2 shows. Paul Irwin from RFX. Obviously, they have the MX Nationals.
Yeah.
I watched your show with Gareth Hockey, who should have been running the British Championship this year, but is now concentrating on the youth. All these, one thing that I will say is everybody seems to be focusing on everything domestic, whether it's Bridgestone, whether it's Michelin, whether it's RFX, whether it's Gareth Hockey, ACU, whatever. And apart from 1 or 2 riders, Sean Simpson, he's got his own team. He's committed. He's got British, he's a British base rider. He's got British sponsors. He needs to commit to the British Championship. And so for someone like him, he will be forced into a position where he says, man, do I do GP or do I do British Championship or Masters or whatever it is? I think his focus is, to be fair, just with the ACU, with the British Championship, because they're affiliated with the FIM, so whatever their calendar is, it should normally tie in with, the FIM. But I don't think there are enough teams in the UK that are that bothered about going to World Championship, whether it's MX2 or MXGP, or whether they're even bothered about doing 125 or 250 European Championship. So from that side, I don't think it's a problem. If you've got a rider, and I'm looking at people like, when you look at the list of riders, again, when I raced, who was riding in the British Championship at that time, and you were racing as well.
Yeah.
So, me aside, look at Jamie Dobb, Rob Herring, Kurt Nichol, Dave Thorpe, Jeremy Watley, Mark Banks, Justin Banks, Jason Saunders, Warren Edwards,
loads.
Brian Wheeler, Stuart Coyle. These are just guys off the top of my head, without even thinking about it, that were competing in World Championship events. They wanted to be there. And now we've got a situation where kids are just happy to ride in England. They're not even bothered about doing 125 or 250 European Championship. So if they're not bothered about doing 125 or 250 European Championship, I don't think they've actually got any aspirations to ride in the World Championship, MX2 or MXGP.
Yeah, you no doubt, you're probably right. Is that because, do you reckon it might be for some of them because they feel it's too difficult to get there, or because of the way it's structured? Obviously, in our day, and sorry to do the whole back in our day thing for those people who are watching, but things change, evolve. You and I both know you couldn't even get to go and try and qualify for a GP until you got onto the grading list in the UK. Yeah. So there was a genuine, you had to earn that right.
Now they don't even have to try to qualify for an MX2.
Well, no, and I thought
if you want to ride as a wild card, you know what I mean? Pay your money, go and enter the wild,
I know.
MX2, and even if you are 40th time, you're going to be in the World Championship. Go there for the experience. But for me, all I would say is I would encourage the kids that are riding 85s and 125s in the youth to do the 85cc European Championship. You know, when they have that one-off weekend, try to do that Junior World Championship round whenever it is and wherever it is. Otherwise, if you're a 125, 250 rider in youth, enter as many rounds as you can locally, as in Italy, Belgium, Holland, France, Germany. They're not that far away. Have you seen the money that these kids, their parents are spending on motorhomes?
Well, here we go. Look, Rob Stringer's come up, you know.
There and say, I can't afford to do European Championship, and they're turning up to a local race in a 200 grand motorhome.
Absolutely. Look,
you know,
so that's what they're saying.
Priorities.
Yeah.
I think strip it back. Get a sprinter, easy up on the side. Do it like Sean Simpson. He's riding MXGP. Get a sprinter, get an easier, go and chase your dream. Do 125 and 250 European Championship.
Yeah.
Improve the level of riding that you're at by going there. And don't just sit there and go, you know what? We drove to Holland and we didn't qualify, not doing the rest of the series. Because I've seen that as well in England. There are too many championship series in England. ACU, BSMA, YMSA, Nora.
Yeah.
MCF. There's at least 5 federations out there where they sit there and go, this is our national championship. So
I know.
They go there and go, I want to be MCF champion. And then they throw a chain at the first round. I don't want to do MCF anymore because the next round is like 40 minutes down the road. I want to go and be ACU champion. And then they crash in the first turn and break a radiator. And then they go, I want to be BSMA champion. Stick to a series. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to win anything unless you commit to a whole series, the whole season, whatever it is that you're doing. You know what I mean? And so,
I'm smiling because that's sound advice.
European Championship, go.
Yeah.
Say, look, it's an 8-round series. I'm going to do 6. And if you don't qualify at the first one, go to the second one. If you qualify at the second one but don't score points, look at the position that you're in. How far am I away from scoring points? Go to the third one, wherever it is. And actually, if you budgeted for 4 rounds and it's 8, go to rounds 5, 6, and 7. You know, it's just. That's just how it was then. Now I think we've got too many snowflakes living in the world, and they're just kind of like
there is. Look, listen, I knew.
Oh, computer says no, I didn't qualify. Okay, don't worry, son. Pat on the back. You know, go and stick.
It's local. Good. I knew this would spark reaction, and I'm glad that you've had a few sherbets on your anniversary.
Yeah, you know what?
No, but I know you're talking. I know you'd say it anyway.
It's about where I've come from, where you've come from, and where we're at now. You know, now it seems too easy just to walk away from commitment. You know what I mean? And I think
yes, I do.
Thing to do with it. You know, if you want to stay local, stay local. You know what I mean? Go to Sainsbury's.
Yeah, exactly. So there's obviously some good comments coming in, and they agree with that. Talking about going to do the wild card or going to do a GP. Here's an idea for you. Why don't you do a flyaway? Speak to Infront Moto Racing and ask
if you speak to them because they're probably watching now.
Live stream. See if you can do a live onboard commentary. I'll get a wild card as well.
Yeah.
And we can try and because obviously they're on those flyaways. You've got a good chance of maybe getting in. You and I can go out there and have a tear up and do a bit of live commentary. But of course. You're funding it because you've already said you'll buy my flight to Argentina. So let's do it there.
No, Argentina. I said, what's closer? What's closer than Argentina?
But you're right. So listen. Anyway, that covers for as far as I'm concerned. You know, like where we're at, looking up the number of GPs and what is 20. It's go and do them 12. As long as we get 12 this year, good that it will be a series. What do you reckon? And this is a difficult question, I think, for a lot of people. What's your opinion, or how do you feel the knock-on effects are going to be of COVID, regards of not immediately now, not the championship now, next year? Do you think some of the manufacturers and some of the brands and people that invest quite wisely into World GP are going to have to look at their spend? And do you think that will have a knock-on effect on it? Tough one, I know. This is almost turned into a proper political question.
Yeah, because actually, what is the impact even now? Take someone like Sean Simpson, SS24 KTM racing team, MXGP. Going alone first time. And actually, I interviewed him for MXGP magazine, which if you go to mxgp.com and look for magazine, you'll see that interview in the last 1 or 2 issues. And it was actually part of a going solo thing, him, Strybos, and Tano Leo. I asked him, what do you hope to get out of it? And do you have any regrets? Actually, he wanted to do it already last year. He should have already done it last year, 2019. But, he's decided to do it this year. And I asked him about sort of the situation that we're in with COVID-19 and all the rest of it. And he said, you know what? Yeah, there are some sponsors that have paid up front, and there are some sponsors that have kind of looked at it and gone, maybe we just need to reassess. And I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure there are other teams out there that might be looking at it going, this is what we said, this is what we came looking for in terms of, sponsorship support, 125, 250 European Championship, 6, 7, 8 rounds, 10 rounds, whatever, MX2, MXGP, 20 rounds, Motocross the Nations, TV exposure live, MXGP TV at least every weekend. If you're an American sponsor, second race, CBS Sports Network in the US for MX2 and MXGP. Have these sponsors kind of looked at it and said, well, we're not getting value for money at the moment, so we have the right to renege on what we give you monthly, as in maybe cut, okay, let's just make it simple. Let's say we give you $1,000 a month, okay? Just as a number. But we only want to give you 500 because we're not getting, value for money. Well, within their rights to do so, apparently, because when you look at the UK situation, and I have the news here in Belgium, BBC, furlough schemes. You're being laid off work because the government says you've got to close your business because of the COVID-19 thing. But the government will pay up to 80% of your staff's wages for 3, 4, 5 months. That's fine. That saves jobs. But then when you look at the situation now where they say we're now going to sort of end that August, September, October, and if we still were in the middle of this pandemic and businesses are being asked to bring people in and work and whatever else, obviously motocross is different, but at the same time, somebody's been paying wages somewhere, government support, whatever, whether it's riders, self-employed, whether it's teams, whatever, because of their businesses and things like that. But next year, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I'm hoping that the measures that governments have put in place where they can help, riders, teams, team owners, businesses in general. Let's say Dirt Hub, was a major brand on UK High Street and employed 500 people. Yeah, and you've got skate parks and you've got BMX parks and you've got whatever, motocross tracks, and you're a nice little niche. But then the government said to you, or you said to the government, hey, I've got to lay all these people off because we can't go outside, we can't run events, we can't do this, we can't do that. The government are paying your wages and your employees' wages for 4, 5, 6 months, 80%. That's good for now. But then you need to look at it and say, but what have we lost in terms of what we could have earned by having these events, having those races, having that exposure, And so does that then have the knock-on effect? And I think actually when you look at, from reading between the lines in terms of MXGP and Infront Moto and whatever the calendar we have, and looking at what David Longo said in his editorial last month or the month before, where European Championship will be one day, MX2, MXGP will be the next day. This is a cost-cutting exercise for everybody. Saving the teams money, saving the riders money. even their own logistics, because normally when you go to Belgium and then you've got to go to Italy, then Germany, then France, that's 4 or 5 different races that you've got to pack up, load up, drive, go.
Huge effort, huge.
And everything else, And so by having these 2 or 3 races here at one venue, it's almost like one set of expenses. All you got to do is like get there, set up, and if the next race is on a Wednesday or if the next race is on a Sunday, everybody's still there. Maybe
exactly.
in the skybox in the same position, but you change the layout of the track.
Yeah,
it's only one set of expenses to get there.
Well, that's proved. That's proved, isn't it? Obviously, AMA, FIM World Supercross did that to great effect. Obviously, I'm assuming that you watched that avidly and was and saw how they did it.
I watched the highlights, to be fair, just because I like to get my sleep these days. But
you and both.
7 races in 21 days.
Yeah. What about? Okay, we're getting some good comments coming in now. I'm going to go back to. Where was this question that I saw from Chris Stevens? This was really early on. This was quite a while ago. He posted this. So let's get it up. Does Paul think the age limit on MX2 should be scrapped? Now, again, I know you're working for Infomo, so you've got to do your thing, whatever. So if you don't want to answer that, that's fine with me. Some riders just aren't suited to MX1 and end up left on the scrap heap, delusion with racing.
The way I'm going to answer that is, okay, so for people that might be tuning in from other places all over the world, like MX Justin in Argentina and whatever else, I don't know if we've got any other international people viewing in, but on the news today, there was a football club in the northwest of England, Wigan Athletic. They won an FA Cup trophy, the oldest football trophy in football. I think they won it in 2013. They're on the news today. They went into administration and they blame it on COVID and the effects of COVID by having to not play matches, and any matches that they do playing behind closed doors and all the rest of it. And they've only just been taken over a few days ago or in the last month or whatever.
Yeah. I'm aware of it,
And so, and they're also now, I think from what I can gather, they're sitting in the championship kind of nice and comfortable, but it seems like because they've gone into administration and they can't afford to pay bills, they're going to be docked 12 points, which puts them in the drop zone. And they're also facing a fine. They already can't pay their bills and they're going to face a fine. And it's all forced upon them through no fault of their own, So, the rules are the rules in terms of MX2, 23 years old and all the rest of it. All I would have, I guess, like to have seen is, because we, and again, we don't know until we see the calendar. I don't know how many more rounds we're going to get, but let's say the championship was 8 rounds.
But you understand why they've done it. That's the point, like the pyramid thing, to try and push everybody into that MX1 and have all the best riders in MX1. So we understand why, but it's obviously the problem lies but I suppose the world's brutal. The problem lies if you can't make the cut and be good enough to get an MX1 slot.
At the end of the day, if you go from MX2 to MXGP, like I say, if you are good enough, you will succeed. Romain Febvre, who probably has to be the most unfortunate rider, he turns, and the thing is, if you turn 23 before New Year's Day, you have to go MXGP. His birthday is New Year's Eve. He just finished 3rd in the World Championship in 2013. And so by the rule of the FIM book, he was forced to go MXGP. Guess what? He won the World Championship the next year, in his first year. Tim Geiser won the championship in 15. And he also went up, not because of his age, but because he went, I've won one, I want to go test myself in MXGP.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So there are two sides of the argument. You can sit there and go,
it's always.
I want to stay down for as long as possible. Alessandro Puzar was 28 when he won the World Championship in 125 in 1995. He was 50 like 5 years earlier and then dropped back down because it wasn't happening for him. We don't have that. Is it good or bad? For Puzar,
because basically Chris Stevens, who asked the question, is saying he's come up. I think he's agreeing with what you're saying, but he's also taking into account Paul dropped back to 125 in his day.
You know what? It's not that I actually dropped back down to 1-2. I started in 500 at 18.
Yeah, that's true. Valid point. Yeah.
At 18, I started in 500. Or 17, I rode the last 4 rounds of the British Championship. I rode the Coupe de l'Avenir, which is the under-19 motocross of nations.
And it's great. What an event that is.
Me, James Dodd, Mark Eastwood, we won that. I went to 500 British Championship and World Championship in 1990. I think at Canada Heights, the first round of the championship, I won the last race 3. You know, Thorpe was defending world champion. Kurt Nichol was second in the world. 18 years old, just, and I won the race. So if you're good enough, it doesn't matter where you ride, you know, and you can sit there and say, but it depends on the bike. When I won that race at Canada Heights in England at the first round of the British Championship, Thorpe was on a full factory Kawasaki. Kurt was on a full factory KTM. I was on a bog stock, out of the showroom, Kawasaki KX 500. The only thing I had on it was a SPES, S-P-E-S, SPES pipe from Belgium. And my suspension was stock, everything. I was good enough to win a race that day. And I was good enough to win races throughout the year. I was good enough to get whole shots against.
I think that highlights it, doesn't it? Like you said, you got the ruling, and some people are better on a smaller bike, whatever. But either way, you're still going to get the best of the best getting to the top. That never changes, does it? You know, so you've got that. You're not the answer you gave to that question, but the question before. Your wife upstairs, who's probably still prancing around in her knickers, saying you could be a politician. You could be a politician with an answer like that, Mailer.
I could be.
Yeah.
Dirty
anyway,
politics. I've got my own podcast coming out next week.
Yeah. So that was one good question. We're getting some good ones, and there was another one I wanted to come back to because I said I would. Now, who was it that was? Here we go. Paul Golding has said, "Let's get up on screen. How will the point system work for MXGP in the MX event, or has that been scrapped? Do you know? Basically, you might not know that.
I have no idea. No idea. I mean, personally, from my side, Motocross of Nations, having ridden it 7 or 8 times, having won it once.
Yes. Once is better than never, man.
I'd rather. And actually, you know what? The scary thing there is, like,
I'm telling you now, Mailer, I'm telling you now, if that had been me, I'd still be milking that cow as much as possible. So don't be so modest about it. You won the MX Nation for Team GB, for Christ's sake.
When it was the Des Nations.
Yeah.
Or as the French would say, Des Nations.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We're Brits abroad. The only, like I say, I've not seen, honest to God, I have not seen the calendar. I just heard that it might be coming out tomorrow, sometime in the morning, and that based on local press here, we might have 2, maybe 3 rounds in Belgium, and that we probably start in Latvia in August. Latvia, is it 2 races? I don't know. Where do we go from there? I have no idea. Motocross Nations for me, and this is just me.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad we're getting onto that. Hold on to that thought.
Yeah,
I'm listening. I'm just going to the fridge for another one. I've only got 2 left. Blimey,
dude, you only started with 3.
Yeah, to be fair, no, I had a couple before we came on.
All right,
I hope it's not too late to get down to the co-op.
No, we're good. We've got
we got time.
Night stop just 500 meters away. So if I run right, we'll be checking in there.
So yeah,
me on a personal level has always been, and I think for a lot of people, the last race of the year. Sort of like drops the curtain on the season, doesn't it? And you get everybody. Championships are won, national championships, world championships. So if you're in America, AMAs, all outdoors are all done. World championship, MX2, MXGP. You've got your champions. They've got no inhibitions. They just literally put everything on the line, and that's it for sort of country.
Yeah.
When it was announced, we're going to add World Championship riders and World Championship points and all the rest of it, only from a point, I kind of understand it. They wanted it to be a round of the World Championship as well, because they're trying to run as many rounds as possible.
Yes,
From that side. But from a point scoring side and a sort of side to follow it, I mean, the Motocross Nations is difficult to follow anyway in terms of its point scoring. Yeah, 1 for a win, 2 for second, 3 for third. But when you add your teammate who's in 10th, all of a sudden, you can be leading with 12 points, and
it all unfolds on that last 10 minutes
race,
of that final moto, doesn't it?
If you sit there and go, right, this is the Motocross of Nations kind of classification at the moment, after 2 laps of race 3, the final race, all your big boys, MX Open and MX1, MXGP, and then you kind of trying to figure out where your World Championship riders are and World Championship points and how they're trying to score that, and 2 podiums.
You'd be busy in the booth working.
And I mean, you know what it's like. It's a difficult job, to do anyway, like under normal circumstances. But to try and throw that in there. So on a personal level, I hope that weekend of September 27. Just looking at my original. This is my calendar here, rubbed out from Valkenswaard. And Latvia is showing a rubbed Russia out because they moved it to October. Latvia, 7, 8, 9. And I've got Sweden, Finland, Trentino, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, 2 in Indonesia, a week off, and then Patagonia. That was after the last calendar. But when you've got Motocross of Nations, probably 26, 27 of September originally, if it was me, I would just look at that and say, scrap the Nations this year. Just run another Grand Prix and put France on that weekend as a French GP.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that.
If they do decide to run the Nations and the French GP and the World Championship as one in some bizarre way or whatever else, then I'm sure we'll figure it out in time and lap scoring and everything else. But I would just prefer it was one or the other.
Here's a valid point, and I'm sure you
figure out a way to work it out. Then great. But for me personally, Nations or a GP.
I would agree with you entirely on that. We're on the same page there. I'm sure you would have thought this as well. Sam Bradley has popped up and saying, and we can't answer this, we don't know, but it's rhetorical, but will the Americans and Aussies even bother? That is a valid point, particularly with the AMA obviously just saying, well, look, at the minute, we're sort of done.
Well, the news in the last 24 hours or so that America, for instance, they've postponed their first 2 rounds of outdoors. And I think they probably already had a race on the original Motocross Nations date.
Yeah.
And I think there are spikes in viruses like, let's say, Florida. I know the race is, let's say it's the original date in September. We are now July, August. You've still got 3 months for things to calm down and all the rest of it. But if you've got a national championship in America on that same weekend, for sure, they're not going to send anybody.
They're not going to come.
I don't think they are. Even if they've got people like Mitchell Harrison here, Thomas Covington here, even if they send Darren Sinai over or whoever, I read an interview, I think, with David Coombs recently. Might have been on Jeff's website, MX Large. And he'd already kind of said, that's not going to happen. We're not just going to send anybody. If we're going to go and compete, we're going to compete with our 3 best riders, and they have to come from the US and da-da-da-da. Fair point. Fair comment, But until we see the calendar tomorrow,
then we'll see. Yeah, exactly that.
It's difficult to, if the Motocross Nations is on there in its original date, then we can speculate even further in terms of how things. You can also look at America in terms of how their outdoor season may look then. If they've cancelled 2.
Well, here you go. Look, that's good. You brought that up. Perfect timing. Rob Stringer's come on and said, what's your thoughts on American Nationals being postponed? Do you think they're rerun? Do you reckon they're run?
I have no idea. To be honest. I'm based in Europe. I'm not based in the US. They obviously tried to give enough space between the last Supercross round and in Salt Lake to outdoors to give everybody time, but also they're governed by, and again, talking to or listening to David Coombs in terms of in print at least, when you look at Europe and you look at America is based on 52 states. Each state has a different governing authority, different rules, different regulations. It may as well be 50 different different countries, in the same way that Europe is so close together. Like, for instance, I'm based in Belgium. If I want to go home to England tomorrow to go see my dad, I have to quarantine for 14 days from mainland.
Yeah.
Because Boris Johnson has said anybody coming in from Europe has to quarantine when they arrive in the UK. And so the European people over here have said, guess what, Boris? Anybody going from the UK to Europe has to quarantine for 14 days. Take it or leave it. I can drive 5 minutes and I'm in Holland, not a problem. I can drive 30 minutes that way and I'm in France. I can drive 40 minutes that way, I'm in Germany. I can drive to Italy.
Not now you can't because you've had a few. But yeah, I know.
I've had one. I'm still on my first, Jeff.
Are you? Christ.
For a false sense of security. I know.
Well, no. That's just I'm cracking on. I'm cracking on. Fair play.
But
professional. See, I'm not.
Mainland Europe here, I can drive pretty much where I want. Okay, which is why you've seen some MXGP teams travel to Czech Republic last week and ride a national championship.
Yeah.
And so from that side, until they allow people to travel, like from the UK and from here to there and stuff like that, it makes things very difficult because you're governed by what that country, that government is saying. You know what I mean? And so, like going to Latvia, are there any restrictions from the rest of Europe to get into Latvia at the moment? A week or so ago, people from Belgium couldn't travel to Latvia. But hopefully that changes in the next week or so. If we can start mid-August at Kegham's.
It is weird times, isn't it? Well, I mean, we're going to get to go racing. Like I said, hopefully we can still squeeze in, as you said, 12 would be great because that's where we're at.
Nice. Another 10 would be great.
Yeah.
A 12-round series, if we can get any more than that, then I think anybody who wins a championship with that is more than deserving,
Yeah. What do you reckon then? What do you reckon? How far?
They won't be winning more than 200 points like guys from Prado last year.
Yeah. No, well, obviously not.
So it's going to go down to the wire.
Do you think they will then? Again, this is all speculation. I'm putting you on the spot. You've got no concrete evidence or proof to answer this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think they will then push back the start of next season to give people, if we're going to run a little bit later this year, would you reckon? I can't see that happening. I reckon they just say, look, carry on rolling with it and still start like I normally would. Because otherwise we'll be back to square one, won't we?
Like I say, the last calendar that I have is the one where it finishes in Patagonia on the 22nd of November. And that was already 2-3 months ago, whatever. I mean, we're 4 months in lockdown now. You know what? I would actually like to finish in Argentina because it's beautiful.
I bet you would.
I really would like to finish in Argentina. I'd like to get on a plane and just go, let's just leave all this shit behind, jump on a plane, do 40 hours on a plane, whatever it is, 30 hours, and then go, because all you've got there is mountains, lakes, serenity, just peace and calm. And then, let's do 4 races on Sunday, boom, 4 strokes, ripping around the forest. And then,
never mind doing 3 at Lommel. Do 10 in Argentina.
Dude, let's just do that. Dude, Justin, fix it. But if we can finish there, that'd be great. But on the other side of that, I also understand that, riders, teams and contracts, most riders, teams, contracts are either done end of September, beginning of October because of the Motocross Nations commitment. So let's say they're all done either mid-October, end of October. Where do you go then? How do the teams... And this is not just me. This is something that we talked about right from the very word go when when there was talk of extending the season beyond September into October, into November. You know, it's because you normally look at it and say, right, Motocross of Nations is done. Normally, everybody knows where everybody's going, but they don't make team announcements until Milan EICMA show in November. And then obviously people jump on the bikes. But if you're racing until mid-November, last week in November, when do you then start your test program with your new team? Where does that take you? Where then do we begin the new season? Also with pre-season races and the first GP, you know? So it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I don't know. We've started this year. I mean, naturally, this year was last weekend of February. You know.
Yeah.
Do we start that same weekend in Argentina or in some other place next year?
Well, we're going to find out. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but let's just get back to racing this. It sounds like we're going racing, Malin. You'll be back in that lovely little booth. You're going to be isolated because I've sat in your booth. There was barely enough room to get a second guest in. For those of you who don't realise the conditions that Paul works under.
Well, everybody, welcome to the MXGP of MXGP Isolation Lockdown. Here we are. Yeah. Jeff is alongside me. Jeff, where are you? You've got a job to swing.
You've got a job to swing your arm about in your booth. But there we go. So you'll be all right in there. Yeah. Well, look, Paul, Malin, it's been always a pleasure catching up and talking all things GP. I'm looking forward to getting back watching it. Obviously, you know, getting back to your excitement with the commentary, which I'm sure you're like, as you said, you're ready to pull the pin. That's one of your
ready to pull the
things
pin
there. And we'll all be watching when it comes back. Listen, you're going to have your second Corona. If you believe that, you believe anything. Second Corona while you've been on air. Happy anniversary. Didn't realise that. So sorry to interfere with your evening.
It's not like a wedding anniversary.
Okay.
It's
a thing. It's a thing. Well, Nikki's shot off upstairs watching. She's been watching, and she didn't come on the show.
Conked out.
I was hoping we'd get her on the show, and she could obviously, because if you don't know, Paul's wife basically does all the PR for Yamaha Factory Racing, so she could have got a free plug there. As it turns out, I've just done it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So there we go. Right. We are,
and hopefully everybody's enjoyed a little.
I hope so.
Between us.
We've had some good comments. And of course, this will be out there now. You can watch it at any time. So tune in. And if you still want to get a question to Paul and you're not watching this live, just write it down on our Facebook page. And we might get Paul on again a little bit further. Once we get a few GPs in, get you back on to discuss where it's all at and how it's all going. How's that?
And actually, you know what, Jeff? I'm going to extend an olive branch here to you and say if we do at the end of October have 2-3 GPs, more than welcome to pitch up in the spare room. One of 2 spare rooms here.
Absolutely.
And if you want to do something in the lead up or during the weekend, more than welcome.
Definitely. That'd be good. I certainly. If this
road cycle as well, because you probably might need it.
if this Lommel thing's happening, which it looks like it is, then yes, that's an offer I shall probably take you up on, because I'd like to come over and watch them.
Like, pitch up out front, stick yourself in the room upstairs.
Yeah.
And let yourself out, because obviously we might be leaving earlier than you will be.
Okay, but just tell Nikki, of course, as well, that I'm
susceptible. Why don't you tell her yourself? She's listening.
Okay, well, yeah, Nikki, if I do end up staying in your house, I also will probably be walking around in my underwear because I'm free and easy. So that's a terrible notion to end a show.
Well, I'm rocking the full Kiwi thing. I've got shorts, I've got flip-flops.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the summer.
Dick Law's just come on and said, have you got room for him as well?
Yeah,
now you're on the spot.
But,
yeah.
Again, be careful how you say that, because what is Dick Law these days?
Dick, you can sleep in the wheelie bins.
Yeah, they don't have wheelie. You can sleep in the jacuzzi.
There you go. We're all going to raid your place. Anyway, listen, I'll let you crack on because you're an hour ahead of us, so you'll probably want to carry on enjoying your evening.
Dude, I've got somebody waiting. So if you want to keep going, we can keep going.
I've literally got somebody waiting. I've actually got somebody's house keys that I forgot to give them, and
actually the workshop has changed this week.
Yes, we're having
weekend or
no, we're moving things around, so I'm having a refit. So soon I'm gonna have a nice new tidy office with all new stuff. Yeah, so
nice. Team Green Kawasaki coming at you.
You know it, right? I'll leave you to it, Mailer. Thanks for joining us. All the best, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cool, mate.
Right.
Cheers. And
see you later.
See the races soon.
You will. Nice one.
Right.
He's out of here. There's Mailer. Right. That was it. Episode 3 of Dirty Talk. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, please keep coming every two weeks. We're doing these. I'm not sure who I'm going to get on next time. I've got some good ideas of people that we're going to get on. So there we go. Thanks for joining us with Dirty Talk. It's been a real pleasure. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new guest. Thanks to Paul Malin and his wife, Nikki, for everything, setting it up and coming on. And that's it. We're out of here. We will see you in 2 weeks. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we are out of here. We just got one more comment come in. Let's see who it is. Oh, some Dick Law. You're still sleeping in the bins, Dick. Right, we're out of here. Laters. There we go. End broadcast. Done.